at the Capitol with Senator Harry Coates. Senator Coates, thanks, man, for stopping in.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here.
It's always great to see you, but it's especially nice today to see you early because late last night a process began that I'd like to be educated on a little bit, and that's the veto process. Last night, of course, in the governor's office, a bill was vetoed, and actually a couple of bills that we'd like to talk about today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the governor, late last night, sometime a little before midnight is my understanding, he vetoed the stem cell research bill that we sent him earlier that prohibited the use of cells that are being retained for reproduction, and these are cells that if fertilized and when fertilized, they could, if implanted into a woman, could develop into a baby. The governor vetoed the bill, and it's coming back to us today, and an attempt is going to be made to override the governor's veto.
Okay, so that's one bill that was vetoed. Now, a second bill as well had to deal with something that we've talked about before, which is the lawyers and their fees. Talk about that.
Well, and that came about in the Senate. It was a bill that did not have the votes to pass. What it did, it capped fees for lawyers, or sent it to the vote of the people as to whether or not they wanted lawyers' fees capped. Okay. At a certain level. There were three of we Republicans that voted no on the bill and effectively killed it. I'm a firm believer that we don't tinker around with people's livelihoods and should not be telling one group of people or one occupation, here's how much you can make in your occupation. And I have really deep-rooted beliefs with regard to that. I remember back in the 70s when President Carter was in office. You know, my family had struggled in the cattle business for years, and finally the beef prices got up high enough where we were beginning to make some money in the cattle business. Finally, and could pay our mortgages and things like that. Well, guess what? The president said, you know, we're gonna stop. We're gonna cap the price of beef, and you can't charge any more than this amount. It's devastating to the beef industry, devastating to agriculture, and I learned a lesson right there. You know, you don't tinker around with a person's livelihood, and the same holds true for lawyers. And I think Senator Russell made a good point. Today we are the rope we weave to hang the lawyers is the same rope that will be woven to hang farmers and ranchers in the future. So we effectively got it voted down, much to the chagrin of many of my colleagues on my side of the aisle. But as a businessman, capitalist at heart, no. It was a bad idea.
Well, and you've been placed in somewhat a position of authority on the free market ideas in Oklahoma by being the chairman of the business committee. With that and with your experience, talk about what process that bill came to have to be voted down, if you would say.
Well, as the chairman of Business and Labor, and having been in business for 30 years and had several businesses, you know, I think many things are best left alone when dealing with business. And this was kind of one of those things that we do to take ourselves off the hook up here. We send everything we really don't want to deal with at the Capitol. We send it to the vote of the people. It takes our fingerprints off of it. We say, well, it was, you know, probably a bad idea, but it was the will of the people. The problem with that, we have people up here at the Capitol that provide us with information on a daily basis. We don't do the research. You know, we have staff do the research. They bring it to us. Here are the facts. The average citizen, the average voter out there does not have a staffer that can go get the information. We have a short paragraph on a ballot that says we're going to cap attorneys' fees, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. A short sentence in there, or at best a paragraph. They have to make a decision. Is this good or bad? That's not the right way to govern, to pass it on to someone else that doesn't have all the information, and it just sets up an opportunity for us to have some really bad laws on the books.
Okay, so that was one piece of legislation that came through the process and actually was being asked to go to the vote of the people, in which the Senate side said, nope, that's not going to happen. And then there's another piece of legislation, the one dealing with embryonic stem cells, as I understand it, they went all the way to the governor, and the governor said on this piece of legislation, which was going to pass into law, said no on that. Right. So talk now about the process that that potentially will go through.
Okay, as happens many times when you see a bill come through and you look at the language, it look fairly benign, so to speak, as to what they would do. Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation here in Oklahoma City, they have researchers and doctors down there that do studies, and that's their occupation. They got on board late in the game and saw what this bill was going to do, talked to the governor and said, Governor, this is going to really devastate our research program down there. And we have pro-life first at the OMRF, Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. And they said, these are cells that are never going to have an opportunity to be a human being. These are cells that when the parents or the donors of these cells, an egg and the sperm, say, look, we've had enough children. We don't want any more. These are the ones that are left over. I mean, they're only going to implant in vitro fertilization, only implant a few, or you have the situation of the octomom where you have eight children, which in most cases is unfortunate to have that. But what is left of those cells either get put back into the freezer, so to speak, or they're discarded. They're thrown in the trash. Nothing is done with them. We're talking about dealing with those cells that are thrown in the trash. So why not take those that are being thrown away, they're being discarded, and use them? And it can't be developed into any form of a human. It can't even be allowed to grow. Use that information to help save a life or to improve our ability to recover from a dreadful illness, and utilize our research facilities that we have here in Oklahoma. So I think the governor was right in vetoing it. And once we found out the facts, I voted for it when it came through. I thought it was a good idea. But now that I know the facts, know what it really does, I'm not going to participate in overriding the governor's veto.
Wow, what a great example, Harry, of how the process is supposed to work up here at the Capitol. More and more information as the legislation goes through that process.
Right, and unfortunately, the governor has the veto pen. When you find out something and find out more information about it, fortunately, the governor, and I don't always agree with his vetoes, but, at least we do have a backstop in the governor's office saying, look, let's think this over again. Maybe this isn't the best idea, and you can always send a bill back to us down here. So that's where we're at on that, and I don't think the votes are here to override the governor's veto.
And more information makes all of us enlightened. That's how a senator, the stature of Senator Harry Coates, can maybe vote one way when it comes through the Senate, but then he gets more information, and the vote possibly changes. I don't know until you get.
And that's what's going to happen with my vote today. The vote's going to change because now I have more information. I'm more knowledgeable about, and I think the same would hold true for a referendum went to the vote of the people. They may vote one way today. A year later, they may decide this is a horrible thing that we've done, and then it's hard to back that up. Yeah. So anyhow, we're going to see what happens today. It's going to be a long day.
Always enlightening conversations with our representatives. We would encourage you from mylegislator.tv to contact your legislator and help him to make the hard decisions that you guys are all faced with. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you a lot. Appreciate it.